bases dropped on a new round of soccer down here. John, hear you there. And it is a day, hopefully, where we might get some answers. Don't know. Couldn't tell you, don't know. But if we do, we'll be here. Oh, by the way, actually, shoot. You know, it's been a while since we've been here in studio. There's the boss's fat head for the record. John, hear you there. Thanks for dropping by. And today being deadline day, figured what we would do is get a little help. And so what we have done is we have enlisted in the Rolodex. And we will see if Craig Johns from the Gazette and Teesside Live in Middlesbrough will help us and let us know what in the wide world of sports is going on. Craig's going to join us at the bottom of the hour. It'll be an education about Middlesbrough, their state of play, where things stand with them, what he knows about the signings of the importing of Kelechi Iheanacho and Samuel Illing Jr. If that is enough of a cushion for Middlesbrough to sit there and say, you know what, we're cool. You know, Manuel Atela, you can go be a part. You can be the upcoming Mate and Latte. Thanks to Ache over at Scars and Spikes for that one. So we will get word from Craig in about 20 minutes as to where things are, what he knows, what Middlesbrough looks like, where they are in the promotion battle, and they're in a street fight. So it'll be an education on Middlesbrough, an education on Emmanuel Atelath as a player, and what he has meant, what he does, what Craig has seen. And then, like I said, we'll kind of lay the land out, and hopefully we get word, as all of you intrepid producers in the Twitch pitch are fond of doing, beating me to the punch when it comes to finding the videos and all those kinds of things. So that's where we are. So standard elements of Abe coming up in a bit, Bart coming up at 10 to start hour number 2. And in the middle of it all is Craig Johns. So Craig will be joining us for the first time ever in the history of humanity. And hopefully we won't scare him off. So that is what's coming up this morning. Abe, Craig Johns, Bart, and then we'll get your thoughts. Obviously, lay your thoughts out from the weekend in the Twitch pitch, and we will discuss, because there's plenty to talk about with Bart. I'm sure that Bart is cackling over what Arsenal did on the weekend. We'll get into some reffing down here, NWSL in Denver, a lot of different things. So looking at all of the things that are coming up here on the show this morning. So opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And I know that I need to find the QR code and put it in here somewhere. Go to Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase on your way out the door. They, in turn, take 10% reinvest at youth games, youth initiatives. Just ask our friend Melissa Ortiz. Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. It was good. It was good to be in Birmingham this past weekend, and it was interesting for me to once again try and tackle technology. I know that that's a shock to all of you, but it was fun to be at Monday Night Social Club. Thanks to Birmingham Legion for bringing Jake Roof by. Thanks for Kaylor Hodges coming by. Thanks to Tyler Pilgrim coming by. And Jason, Jarrett, great to see everybody. And I know that there are some of you in the Twitch pitch, Alex specifically, who were there. And it was good to see Alex and everybody that dropped by to be a part of everything this past weekend. It was fun. Obviously, when Abe comes in, I'm going to ask Abe his thoughts on the weekend. And I want to find out how he digests Atlanta United when he is looking at the club and how he is analyzing what's going on here in the preseason. Is he the kind of guy that eats one thing off his plate at a time, or does he sit there and just kind of mash everything together? Is it the meatloaf, the green beans, the mashed potatoes all in a pile and then you kind of sort it out as you go. So I want to find out how Abe is ingesting the information of Atlanta United here in the preseason, what he's been looking at, what his thoughts are on the whole thing. So we'll catch up with Abe, and we'll find out what's going on in his mind when it comes to anything and everything going on when it comes to Atlanta United. So that's the rundown for this morning. Great to see. Wasting no time. Shoot, man. You sit there and you promote the guy. And then he pops in. So I'm just going to go ahead and add him. So as always, batting leadoff here on your Mondays, it is Abe. And I'm still learning this new technology, man, where it's like, okay, you got to hide this, bring this forward, do this and do this. I'm still learning this new setup. I'm hoping to have it ready by maybe the All-Star break.
Yeah, I feel you, man. I hate to say this, too. I might be the worst leadoff hitter that you've ever had, at least in today's situation. I did not watch the game this weekend. So you're pretty much starting with one out, and the second guy should probably step towards the plate. But we're here, ready to rock and roll on a Monday.
Well, what I wanted to do was ask you this. When it comes to your analysis of the team, because over the weekend, Atlanta United 2-0 winners in Birmingham over Birmingham Legion USL Championship. When it comes to what you're doing, when it comes to your information assembly, getting ready for the 2025 season, do you sit there and focus on one thing? Do you focus on the veterans who are here? Do you focus on the continuity? Do you focus on the new guys coming in who are the veterans? Do you look at the young kids that are trying to make a stand and try to be a part of the 21 and the game day 18? Or do you just take the dinner plate and throw the meatloaf and the mashed potatoes and the green beans all in a pile, and whatever happens, happens? How are you assimilating your information getting ready for 25?
I look at it slightly different. I'm not going to really take a super technical or analytical approach to it. I want to build my analysis off of the general fan excitement and kind of how a lot of people feel coming into the season. And then maybe I mix it with what I've seen over the last couple of seasons and maybe a slightly more advanced thought about what the potential of this team can be. But I really build about what excites me as we enter the season. And then once games are played, I'll start to look at what's happening on the pitch and kind of go from there. But right now, I'm just like super amped up, as I think so many fans are. I was talking with someone last night, someone who pays attention and kind of knows a thing or two about United, but isn't necessarily a fan, isn't tuning in, week out. I was like, you got to admit, man, like with Almiron now official, with the potential of another guy in the attack, you got to admit, like, you're starting to get a little excited. Like you're kind of wondering how often you're going to go out of your way to watch Atlanta United this season. And I think there's this important group of people. Like, Atlanta United's got this great fan base already here in Atlanta, right? We talk about the 17s who have been there since the beginning, the Five Stripe fans, all that stuff. But there's still a lot of people who are like, I've been to a game or two, I have a good time, but like, I'm really looking to latch in. And it feels like this organization, this franchise is on the precipice of being able to grab another segment of the Atlanta fan base. Does it hurt that the Atlanta Hawks has taken a complete nosedive and people are looking for something in what's about to be a post-Super Bowl world here next week? Yeah, I think that's part of it. But there is excitement and a recognition of this is a season you're probably going to want to watch from a group of fans who maybe haven't been diehards, who maybe don't have season pass, stuff like that. And certainly helps that Apple is taking some steps to make it easier for people to watch these games. I think that's of significance as well. But when I sit down and break down games or how this team is trending, I approach it first from how the fan base is feeling, kind of the excitement or lack of, or frustration in the swings of the season where you have that as well. And then kind of go from there to look at the actual analytics and analysis and technical breakdowns of, all right, here's where people are. How do we get away from that?
So Miguel Almiron reintroduced, and I'll go back that far, considering that's the last time, but that happened in between the last time you were here and now. And yes, as always, properly hydrated, Abe Gordon, one of the better hydrated individuals we have on the show. Miggy has his comeback presser, and I mean comeback in the sense of returning, the prodigal son returns and everything. I think as long as Miguel Almiron showed up and you had the jersey reveal, he was going to win the press conference, as were Garth and Chris and Ronnie Diallo. So Miguel is back officially. He's making the rounds. What's your warmth factor when it comes to Miggy being back here with everything?
Well, let me just start by going back to Miggy's arrival at the Atlanta airport. No, I mean, because I don't think we should look past what the fans did in that moment. Like that's just not something you see across sports. You see it a little bit, but certainly not for the MLS. It just doesn't happen like that. Like you can go around the league and look at some of these sports moments. It doesn't happen like that because guys arrive on private planes to private tarmacs, right? Like I'm guessing the Falcons didn't walk Kirk Cousins into the regular area of the airport. So keeping in mind that some athletes in this city and other cities aren't really given that opportunity, but it was still a wild scene to see the welcoming back. It doesn't surprise me based on what we know about the Atlanta United fan base, but I think you start there and kind of go from there on. And it's like every piece of content that Atlanta United is putting out just makes you feel good about it. Like, obviously, I saw a photo, I think, yesterday of Miggy and Goose sitting down. You saw the video a couple of days ago of Miggy being welcomed back by the cafeteria staff, the nutrition team, stuff like that. I mean, everything is like a nice little second and third and fourth homecoming to see him back here. And now the question is, what's it look like on the field? Because as much as we want to remember the good times under Miggy, and certainly you're never going to forget the championship season, obviously, there have been reunions across sports that don't go well, right? I mean, there are some that do go well, right? Like LeBron's second time to Cleveland, they won a championship. That was a reunion that you worry about. And so you're just I am a little hesitant. I'm confident, obviously, in what Miggy can do, but 6 years is not a short time in terms of the length of a soccer career. And so you're going to have questions, right? And it just needs to go the way we all want it to go on the field. But that's what they brought him in. That's what the expectation is. We talked with Garth Lagerwey on the midday show with Andy and Randy on 92.9 The Game the week before it happened.
Yeah.
And he obviously couldn't get specific. He couldn't mention Miguel by name. But you could tell the drive to make this team dangerous up front was there. We then spoke with Chris Henderson after Miguel Almiron was officially announced, the morning of, I want to say that was maybe Thursday.
Yeah.
And he obviously could speak directly to Miggy, but also said, hey, we're not done. We're going to add a striker, and here's what we're hoping for this thing to be. And they're confident. They're very confident that they're bringing in Miggy to do what he's done, but also to raise the level of other important players. And the one guy we're going to continue to circle here, John, is Alexei Miranchuk. And you start to talk, and you and I have talked about it on this show in previous episodes about you could see it was there. There was just something missing. They're hoping that with Miggy and the other piece that you're planning to add up top, it's not going to be missing anymore. And when you work your danger all the way from where Miranchuk is, and I'm a big fan of Mateus Klick as well, and you start to build upwards, Saba can move around, Miggy can move around, and you have that guy in the center. You're just starting to win this game in many different ways. And you're confident with Goose in the back at the level that he performed last year. You're confident with the guys above him. Derek Williams had an outstanding season, and Stian Gregerson and Pedro, and you start to really build up. We didn't have the attack we were confident in last year. You had an attack that you're like, let's find a way to scratch out a win in this game. If things come the way that we want them to come, like you're going to be able to win so many games in so many different ways. It really does get you excited. And I don't want to overstate, but like you add, and I'll just go ahead and say, like, it seems like Latte Lath is getting closer and closer every hour.
Yeah.
Like if you add him in and you get what you think you can from him, you add Miggy in and you get what you expect from him.
Mm-hmm.
Saba continues to play close to or near the level that he was at, but with less responsibility, which is going to make him more dangerous. Maybe statistically not more dangerous, but more dangerous in general. And you're able to connect with Moranchuk, who was kind of missing a step for various reasons last year. Like when you put this all together, it just feels like they've built a team that you expect to win a title with. And in previous years, it was a lot of like, all right, like if this goes well, then maybe they can get hot at the end of the season. And they did get hot at the end of the season last year. But it was kind of all still like, boy, it needs a lot of things to go right for this to happen. Now it's like, if this thing just happens the way it's supposed to happen, it's going to happen. Like those are the real expectations. Does it set you up for a letdown at the end of it all? Yeah, probably. Like only one team is going to walk away with the MLS Cup. And there are probably 5 or 6, 7 teams that feel like they've built a team that can win a championship this year or that year or any given year. But at least we know going in, Atlanta United is going to feel like one of them. That gets me excited to start this season.
At 929 the game, at Abe Gordon on the 280 character app, dropping by as he always does, bat and lead off. Because to your point, up top you're looking at that 9, and like I said, we're gonna have Craig Johns dropping by from the Gazette newspaper, the Gazette in Middlesbrough. He's going to be coming on after you, batting second, and we're going to get the whole Latte Loth breakdown. So a 9 in theory, and all the reports are saying that it is going to happen and it is going to go down. You would have Miggy wandering, Saba wandering, and I think to your point, I think that is accurate, that Saba can be a guy and not the guy. And I think that takes pressure off of him, and it makes him to be a part of the collective, and you get to see the imagination that was there, but not as much of the pressure is there. It will be self-imposed, don't get me wrong, but you'll have those 3 up top. Your midfield, Miranchuk, Click, some combination of Jay and Bart and Tristan Muyumba. And then at the back, you're looking at Pedro Amador once he gets healthy on the left-hand side. You're looking at Ronald Hernandez on the right for Brooks Lennon. Brooks Lennon becoming healthy. In the middle, it's going to be your 2 center backs. It's a combination of Noah Cobb, Steon Gregerson, Derek Williams, Efren Morales, Luis Abram. So that's what you're staring at pretty much, at least, 15 deep when you're trying to fill out your 18-man on a game day. So that's if you look at it right now, and we know we don't play the games on paper, but on paper, you're looking top 4 in the East, I would say. Obviously, once again, not having kicked the ball or anything, but what you've assembled is looking pretty strong.
It was one of those things last year where one thing would go wrong and your adept was immediately tested.
Yeah.
And it just feels like you're so much more confident in those discussions now. Like if something happens in the midfield and you need to make some changes, you have guys that you know can perform, that you're comfortable in. Same thing, both in the back, both on the outside, right, on the right and left wings, but also through the center. You have a number of guys. And then, as you mentioned, up top, you were always looking for a piece that would kind of work. You have the pieces that it's going to be what it's going to be up top. So it just, there's just a level of calmness and confidence that you have the pieces that aren't going to stretch you too thin. It felt like at times that was a real concern, especially when you were dealing with midweek games and match compression, which was a real issue last season. Probably going to be less of an issue this season because you're not part of the U.S. Open Cup. You'll be in leagues only, and you can probably manage that a little bit better. It's just a confidence level. It really is. You've also learned things about guys you didn't know about, like Jay Fortune, like Noah Cobb, Hernandez and Amador. You just trust guys now. And so it feels like there are answers now that you didn't have last year. And it's just another reason to be confident and excited heading into the opener in a couple of weeks.
I know. And with the fact that we are 18 days away from the opener, trying to do math. I mean, you got Montreal coming to town in a couple of weeks, but starting tomorrow, Team goes to IMG Academy, hides out in Bradenton, Florida for 3 matches in a week's time before coming back on the 15th to take on FC Dallas at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground in a closed-door session. This is that time that you need behind closed doors to integrate. To sit there, it's like, okay, we've had these first 2 matches. They're in the barn. Yeah, I know that, we were trying to do some things that Ronnie Dyla wants us to do. You lose to Chattanooga. Then you come in and you knock off Birmingham. And you're starting to see what Ronnie Dyla is looking for. It's like, play it forward. Don't play it backwards so much. Don't worry, because then Brad would have to recycle things quickly and get things started. Dyla wants you to go forward with things. Be confident with who you are. Be confident in the system. You started to see the through balls that were just missing the connections, but that comes with time. And so you're starting to see these puzzle pieces coming together with what Ronnie Dyla wants his team to do offensively.
Well, and you just need as much time with them as possible. And when you talk about integrating Miggy, like, he's got to get up and running quickly. And I don't need him to be 90 minutes match fit, but like, you need him and Saba to understand and figure out the movement between them, because they are going to have positions, but at the same time, they're not. I think we understand how free-flowing it could be. And so maybe you get a couple of runs in with those 2 guys, Moronchuk sitting a little bit behind them, and you figure that out. But then you're going to add that striker up top, and you got to get him in here and figure that out as well. And like you said, we've only got a couple of weeks here before the start of the season. And I mentioned this last week. Like, we're not going to see look, I just told you what my expectations are for this team if they're able to add ATLUTD and get this thing going. I'm also not going to panic if it's a slow start. You have to give the grace period with multiple new players, essentially an entirely new attack, if you want to give it the grace. I know Saba and Moronchuk were involved last year, but you get the point. But also mixed in with an entirely new manager and some new thought processes and what the task is and what he's asking you to do, stuff like that. You got to give it time for it to hit its groove. Like, I ran a trail race yesterday, and it's one of those things where for these longer races, like mile 1 and 2, you're kind of talking to yourself. You're doing some things mentally. The best like you can get in these longer races, a half marathon or whatever, is where you just hit a rhythm and you stop thinking. And it never happens at the start of the race, right? It's mile 3 or mile 4, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh man, like that's mile 10. All I've got is a 5K left. Like that's what's got to happen here. You're going to see a little bit of fighting with yourselves and kind of thinking and doing the mental bit early in the season. You want to hit that rhythm, though, where it becomes thoughtless. And that doesn't happen without a process. And so I'm going to allow it to work out. We're not going to panic if we win. And look, I'd like to still be winning. Yeah. But I think there's also a thought process where you could start winning games like 4-1, like 5-2. And be comfortable with that. If the first couple of wins are like 1-0 and you have to scratch it out, it's an 84th minute goal, whatever, like we're going to take that. So I'm going to be a little bit gracious on the front end of this season to let it work out, because I don't want to discredit how much new stuff is being brought into this franchise. We talk about the excitement and ultimately where they can be. But you also have to give it time to gel and work. And each practice that goes by without Miggy on the pitch, and certainly without ATLUTD on the pitch, is another day down the road that they have to figure it out in season as opposed to before the season. So we're going to give it time. But this run, and we talk about match compression, like you said, like I look at the schedule for the upcoming games, like there's a lot of it. And these guys aren't going to play 90 minutes, like for the most part. Maybe the final preseason game you can get to 75, something like that. But they've got to get up and running and get a lot of things accomplished down in these private sessions in Florida.
And we're looking forward to it. As always, my friend, thanks for batting leadoff. We will catch up with you next week, and we'll continue this as the march to the beginning of the season here in Major League Soccer in Atlanta United continues. Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, hopefully next week we don't have to dance around any names. We'll have some official news, and we can just straight up talk about it.
Well, maybe we'll find out some answers from a guy who's coming on next. There goes Abe. He's going to go get hydrated. So now it's time for the intel. And we go. Craig, where exactly are you right now?
So I've had to dash out. It's middle of the day in England and middle of our transfer window, but Middlesbrough also have a match tonight, so I've had to quickly dash out to run a little errand, and I'm hoping you can hear me okay.
Yeah, it's all good. Craig is with the Gazette there and with T-Side Live, wherever you track him down. Gazette Boro, and we figured we would get everything known to Middlesbrough, so we go to our source here. Where do things stand right now, Craig, on deadline day? And Emmanuel Latte-Lath, I'll get to the bio and what to expect from him as an individual in a sec. Where do things stand? What's the latest?
Yeah, so our understanding is that Middlesbrough expect this deal to go through now. There was an agreement reached towards the back end of last week, and I believe if Latte-Lath hasn't travelled, he was due to travel, but I would expect he should certainly be stateside by now. And the biggest clue in that is the fact that, as you see, it's deadline day here in England, and Middlesbrough have to basically complete a signing today because they need a Latte-Lath replacement, and so they're currently working and close to sealing a deal to get former Leicester and Man City striker Kelechi Iheanacho in on loan. He'll be Middlesbrough's replacement for Latte-Lath. So yeah, certainly the expectation on this end is that the Latte-Lath deal to Atlanta will be going through.
When it comes to bringing in Iheanacho, when it comes to bringing in Samuel Illing Jr., I think was another name that was being mentioned. Was that the fulcrum here? Was that what we were staring at? Because all indications were, well, frankly, they were all over the place. Latte-Lath wanted to go. No, Latte-Lath wanted to stay. No, the numbers weren't right. Yeah, the numbers were right. Obviously, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but did it just come down to finding an economical replacement for Latte-Lath in the interim, and that ends up being what it looks like in Kelechi Iheanacho?
Yeah, I think a bit of that. I think there was, a lot of talk, certainly early in January, of Premier League interest in Latte-Lath as well, which is, would obviously be a move that Latte-Lath would have wanted to explore had it come. So I think there was probably on Boro and the players' side a little, almost delay, because these things can often come late. I think what was apparent is the teams that were being mentioned in the Premier League, the likes of West Ham, Ipswich, Crystal Palace, we're looking at other strikers, and I think certainly West Ham look likely to sign Evan Ferguson from Brighton to be on loan, who's kind of been the striker they've been tracking all month. So I think there was a bit of making sure that deal was right financially, and Middlesbrough certainly wouldn't have done a deal if it wasn't right for them financially. Obviously, sorting a replacement, they had to do that, but I do think there was probably a bit of delay there as well, just in case anything else came in. Obviously, it would have benefited Boro a lot if somebody else came in and it set off a bit of a bidding war. But that didn't transpire, and I think it got to a point in the window where it was going to be Atlanta or nothing essentially, and Latte-Lath had a decision to make in terms of does he take that move or not? Because had it gone any later, Boro probably wouldn't have been able to find a replacement, and therefore wouldn't have been able to let Latte-Lath leave.
What does Emmanuel Latte-Lath bring to the table for someone who has seen him as much as you have? What kind of a player is he? What kind of positional gravity does he attract when he has the ball? What should any individual who gets to watch either Boro in the past or maybe a future club here on deadline day, what kind of a player is Emmanuel Latte-Lath? What does he bring to the table?
I mean, the first thing to note is obviously his goals. He's a natural goal scorer and excellent finisher. He needs to be serviced. I wouldn't say he's the type of striker who's going to create many of his own chances. He's not going to get on the ball and kind of beat men with skill or anything like that and create his own chances. But give him the ball in and around the box, and 9 times out of 10 he'll put it in the back of the net. He's also incredibly fast. He loves running off the last shoulder of a defender and getting him behind. So if you can service him in that way, he's very good on that side. And I must admit, not entirely sure how Atlanta usually set up, but he loves to press. He's really, really hard working, uses that pace really well to kind of hassle defenders when defenders are on the ball, doesn't give them a moment's breath really. And he's a kind of striker where he would just be a defender's nightmare, because he's constantly on the move. He's constantly putting pressure on you when you're on the ball, and he's constantly moving about, looking for space, looking for a route in behind when his team have the ball. So he's just a really lively player, really active player. I always say he likes chaos, Emmanuel Latte. If you can provide chaos in and around the box, he just has this kind of natural instinct for kind of thriving off that and being in the right place at the right time.
Nothing like chaos and investing in some counter pressure when you don't have the ball. If Emmanuel Latte does, in fact, come to Atlanta. Craig Johns running errands on a match day, on deadline day. So basically, he has nothing going on. And so he figured he'd come and hang out with us here for a couple of minutes and give the intel on Emmanuel Latte and Middlesbrough. And your work has been over the last couple of weeks. It's a good primer for folks that may not know the situation, financial and otherwise, where Middlesbrough is concerned. Middlesbrough is in. They got to look at their finances. They got to make sure that they make ends meet, but they're doing it in a promotion battle right now. There's a lot going on in three dimensions right now, financially and on the field and off the field for Middlesbrough, that they have to pay attention to in trying to bring players in and send players on.
Yeah, massively. It's a risk really for Middlesbrough. I mean, Latte was top scorer last season with 18 goals. He's currently top scorer again this season with 11 goals. And losing that kind of player in the middle of the season is always going to be hard to replace. As you see, Middlesbrough are battling for promotion, and so if they win tonight, they'll go back into the top 6 and being with a chance of making the playoffs again. So they're right in that battle, and they've strengthened this month with some good additions. So they're well in that battle to kind of win promotion, and losing your star striker is, obviously a risk mid-season. But as you mentioned, the financial aspect of it, I think Boro paid a little over £4 million for Emmanuel Latte, and the fee that they're now going to sell him for will be a club record fee received for a player. Middlesbrough since COVID have continuously lost large amounts of money, which most clubs in the English Championship do, unfortunately, because the league is quite skewed towards teams who come down from the Premier League and receive parachute payments, which is usually about an extra 30 or 40 million pound kind of financial advantage to those teams. So for teams like Middlesbrough who don't get those payments, they're ultimately looking to trade players to make profit on players, to make up their finances, and therefore be able to reinvest into their own team and bring in the kind of quality that helps them compete with those teams with parachute payments. So I think ultimately, while it is a risk to lose Latte, they just couldn't afford to be turning down that kind of money this month for him.
Some of our content here on the morning show is done with conversations with our listeners and our viewers. And one of them in particular wanted to ask you specifically, how would you gauge Emmanuel Latte and this possible, probable, anticipated transfer out from Middlesbrough? Is he looking forward to the next challenge? Did he want to stay? What's been your gauge about him and his future? Oh, Craig, I think your audio dumped. Hang on just a second. Recycle for me.
Sorry.
There we go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sorry, I'm back. Problem there with the mute button. So I think with Latte, I think it's a good move for him ultimately. He's going to earn a big kind of wage hike compared to what he's on at Middlesbrough. I think ultimately a player of his age and his stature would have preferred to stay in Europe at this stage of his career. He's 26. He's scored a lot of goals in the last few seasons, and I think the Premier League ultimately was the aim for him. It's one of the best, if not the best leagues in the world. He has, international aspirations still with Ivory Coast, and is still at an age where he'll hope to play at the top. But I think, to be fair to the MLS, I think everyone appreciates it's a growing league. I think more and more we're seeing, top American talents coming from the MLS to Europe and kind of showcasing how much quality is in that league now. I think Boro saw that in the summer. They signed Aidan Morris from Columbus Crew, and he's been, absolutely fantastic for Boro so far. So I think there's a growing appreciation in Europe that the MLS isn't the kind of if you like, for want of a better word, the retirement league that it was maybe once or as once upon a time. I think there is an appreciation that it is an ever expanding and increasingly better league. And as I say, the money on offer for Emmanuel Latilas, it's a no-brainer, really.
I was going to say that you have young players, young American players, coming over and now being a part of activity in the championship. You mentioned Aiden Morris being transferred over. And now you have clubs in Major League Soccer who are coming over and are interested in championship players and are they're gonna open up the checkbook. They're gonna cut the check and open up the wallet. And there seems to be no fear about Major League Soccer clubs coming over and investing in talent from England. So what's the perception of? It's not just, is it Yanks coming over with money, or what's the perception of MLS right now?
Yeah, I think very much still a growing league. I think there will be still some who you speak to who feel that it's a bit of a backward step in terms of quality of league. But I mean, I think you look at the kind of stars that are playing in the MLS now, and obviously I know Miguel Almiron's just gone back to Atlanta from Newcastle United. That's a quality Premier League player there. Obviously Messi playing in the league, and many other really, really good American players, and as we say, developing a lot of really good talented young players as well, the likes of Aiden Morris. So I think ultimately in England we're used to seeing it in terms of whether it's China a few years ago were plowing millions and millions and signing big players, and now in Saudi Arabia they're doing the same, and there's a lot of stars heading to Saudi Arabia. I think ultimately, for a footballer, it's a short career. There's not many careers where you retire at the age of 30 odd. You've still got for what most people is your working life ahead of you. But for a footballer, it comes to an end, kind of mid to late 30s. And it's totally understandable that if there's money on offer, more so somewhere else, that's where you're going to go. You're going to try and earn as much money as you can. And if that's the case, and MLS continues to attract the kind of stars that it has been in recent years, then its reputation will only grow and grow.
As always, Craig, thanks for dropping by. I know that you are less than 6 hours away from, 5 hours and 18 minutes away from a match with Middlesbrough and Sunderland. Middlesbrough favored at home at a plus 147. Thank you for the intelligence report on Emmanuel Latilas. May your deadline day be eventful in only the good ways, where you get to meet deadline and all the information is correct and meet slot. Thanks for crashing the morning show. Thanks for the education on Middlesbrough and Emmanuel Latilas. Go get your errands run. We'll be watching you, and don't be a stranger. Come by anytime.
Pleasure. Thanks very much.
There goes Craig Johns, everybody. Craig Johns from the Gazette. And that was literally, I was like, okay, where do we go to try and find information on Emmanuel Latilas? And so I reached out to Craig, and Craig's out running errands, and he got to come by this morning and break everything down. So you got your intel on Emmanuel Latilas. Guy that likes to create chaos fast. And so it's going to be pressure, creating pressure, and not afraid to bring pressure when possession's trying to be regained. Likes to hang off the shoulder a little bit, likes the service. So when you get service from the edges, whether it's Saba or Pedro Amador or Miggy on occasion or Mateus Click. So so this is what we're staring at here. So Emmanuel Latilas is a guy that likes to be served. He likes service, and I think that there are some folks with Atlanta United that like to bring that kind of game. So that's your early intel right now. And still, it is. There were published reports last week that I want to say it was Northern Echo, and Jarrett spotted this, that Emmanuel Latilas apparently, possibly, probably, allegedly, maybe was stateside. Craig alluded to that when he was with us. So, was Emmanuel Latilas stateside last week? Northern Echo says, yeah, he was. And the number is still where we are with it being all over the place. So started at 18 plus 2. We've heard 20 plus 2. And now it's, 17 plus 8. I still have never seen that percentage that high. Ben Jacobs early this morning before a lot of us woke up. Ben's going to be very, very busy today. And he has Iheanacho on a season-long loan, Samuel Illing Jr. on loan from Aston Villa. Jacobs saith on the 280-character app, Emmanuel Lateloth to leave for Atlanta United as reported with Tom Bogert, deal worth an initial 22 plus add-ons. So to get to that 25 that we saw at 17 and 8, maybe it's 22 and 3 if metrics are met, those kinds of things. So Tom Bogert and Ben Jacobs, who've been at the front lines of this, are saying in deal worth an initial 22 plus add-ons. So that's the number that's being floated. Now we're up to 22 and add-ons. We've gone from 18 plus 2 to 20 plus 2 to 22 plus add-ons. So that's kind of where we are at the moment, and that is the latest numbers that have come across the board. So keep an eye out for all of that as we go. And remember, today is deadline day for inbounds overseas. Outbounds, you can still get rid of folks. Just inbounds to replace, that's the key here. And it's midnight for Big Ben, so 7 o'clock our time, East Coast time. And I know it's confusing because it's confusing to me. So that's why today Middlesbrough brings in Iheanacho, whom we know from his time at Leicester, and Samuel Illing Jr. on loan from Aston Villa. So plus Morgan Whitaker that was brought in for 6+2 from Plymouth Argyle last week. I think this time last week. So you have all of these different players that are being added to the equations. And so today is the day that you got to get all your moves done inbound. As Craig was mentioning, standings right now, they've got a game today. Middlesbrough has that match in hand, and they're the Monday Night Football in the championship. So if you are so inclined, let's see if we can do our look at where perhaps I'm thinking Paramount Plus. I'm thinking Paramount Plus. Chelsea and West Ham is Monday Night Football on the Prem, and that is dialed up on USA at 3 o'clock. So Golasso Network, Paramount Plus, Middlesbrough and Sunderland, if you should be so inclined, at 3 o'clock. Everything else to watch today, just so you know. Turkish Super League is at noon, being an Espanyol. Gaziantep and Galatasaray. You can catch all the BNs, CDO and Western Tele for the fans, Liga 1 Max Pro, Teise, all the points in between. You can get that at fntz.co/soccer down here. And you can get all of the BNs, all the stuff, and you can catch up on all the leagues that you don't have ready access to. Jason got me hooked. I blame him. Also today, ESPN Deportes, Monday Night Football in La Liga, Girona, Las Palmas. That's at 3 o'clock. Gold TV, our buddy Nino Torres is going to be busy. I think he has Rio Ave and Porto at 3:45. Moreirense, Sporting Braga at 1:45. Rio Ave and Porto at 3:45. Gold TV, you can also get that on Fanatiz. ESPN Plus and Universo simulcasting their respective leagues. NBCSports.com simulcasting as well. AFC Champions League Elite has a game in the first half, 2 at 11 o'clock, and 1 at 1 o'clock. Al Ain Al Rayyan is now, Al Saad Al Akli, Estiklal and Al Shorta, and Al Nasser and Al Wasl. And then Serie A at 2:45 is Cagliari and Lazio. So that is, so that's what you're staring at on what to watch, where to watch it, and how to watch it today. And so, yes. So if you want to drift, then you can drift over and watch Middlesbrough at 3 o'clock. And yeah, Emilio, I can't tell if they're 5 or 6. I think they might be 5 or 6, and then when we spring forward, it turns into 4, and then like a week later they change, and so it's out of control. So that's where everything is involving all of the time changes and all the stuff. So coming up in about 10 minutes, it's going to be Bart for his weekly sojourn. We've got NWSL to talk about. We do have reffing down here to talk about. I'm sure that Bart's going to want to talk about his Arsenal, but there's NWSL to talk about. There's outbounds. There's teams that are inbound. We didn't have the chance when Bart came in late last week to talk about new franchises in the NWSL, but footprints, growth, NWSL transfers out from Houston that we have to get into, and then obviously our reffing down here. And if there's some stupidity down here, we'll probably get into that. Last half hour, we'll say hi to everybody and get your thoughts on the weekend when it comes to Atlanta United and Birmingham, and get you ready for the team heading down to Bradenton, Florida, and the IMG Academy for, what is it, 9 days? I think it's 9 days or so. And so then the last match, they're going to do three matches in a very short period of time, but they're leaving tomorrow to head down to Bradenton to be at the IMG Academy. So that's the next step here for Atlanta United. Obviously, today we're going to be keeping an eye on deadlines and signings and transfers and all the points in between when it comes to deadline day. And so for the record, Peacock is starting their Sky simulcast at noon Eastern, because I thought they might be going at it right now, but they're not going to dive in until noon. So for those of you that have Peacock and want to watch deadline day coverage on Sky, you can do it starting at noon. That's when they plug into their friends at Sky and get everything rolling that way. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on all of the transfers, all the things involving Emmanuel Latte-Lath. And I thought it was important to ask Craig what kind of a player he is and how he would fit. So keep an eye on that. But also, once again, Middlesbrough 3:00 with Sunderland, slight favorite as they are in their race. I meant to talk about the standings because of everyone playing on the weekend. There was some hopscotching, and so right now Middlesbrough is out of the promotion playoff picture. But once again, match in hand coming into today. Leads Sheffield United, and Sheffield United is second even after a 2-point deduction. So 63 points in 61. Burnley is third at 58. They've all played 30. Sunderland, part of Monday Night Football on the road, is at 55 points. Then there's a gap. Blackburn Rovers right now are in fifth, but they've lost 3 of 5. They had a 3-game losing streak snap last time out, and they're at 45 points. For them, it's either feast or famine. They've lost 11. They've won 13 so far in their first 30. West Brom right now, 44 points, but they've played one more match than Middlesbrough. They're ahead of Middlesbrough on goal difference at 44 points. Norwich is at 42. Bristol City is at 42. Sheffield Wednesday is at 42. 8, 9, and 10. Coventry City is in 11th right now. They've won 4 out of their last 5. Watford, which is the anticipated new home for Caleb Wiley, that is 41 points on goal difference. Millwall is at 40. So basically what you're staring at, and QPR has picked the wrong time to start a 2-game losing streak. Coventry's won 4 in a row, and they've rocketed past them. So right now, if you were to look at things in the championship from 6, well, technically 5. Let's go back 5. Let's go to 5th. So 5th is at 45 points. From there to 14th, and if you just want to go West Brom down to 14th, 6 through 14 separated by 6 points. That's to get into the promotion playoff. Middlesbrough is back into the promotion playoff if they lose. Well, I don't know. If they have to draw or better today, they're back in the promotion playoff. So that would put them back in 6th. If it's a draw, they're back in. If it's a win, they're up to 5th. Blackburn goes to 6th. West Brom is out. Either way. So that's what Middlesbrough is chasing right now when it comes to the championship here as we get you ready for decision day. So that is what we're looking at involving Middlesbrough, Emmanuel Latte-Lath, and all the things. So that's where we are with all of that. Once again, actually, tell you what, let me say hi to everybody now that we're here. I'm going to say hi to everybody, and then we'll get into conversations and everything on the flip side of Bart. Morning, Will. It might be latte day. It might be latte and mate. Latte and mate day. Morning, David. Morning, Alex. And Alex, No, didn't seem rude at all. It was good because, I mean, it's a 2.5-hour drive home. And once again, thanks to everybody. And the Atlanta United side of the discussion has been posted on the audio side to your favorite podcatcher and to the network. So not rude at all. It's a 2.5-hour drive. I'm just glad that everybody was there. And thanks to Jake Roof and Birmingham Legion for coming in as well and sharing stories about Birmingham, Kaler Hodges, and Tyler Pilgrim and everybody. No, absolutely not rude at all. Morning, Tom. And yeah, Jason and Jarrett, they had to take full-time report, and then they raced over to Monday Night Social Club. Tom, morning there, morning Emilio, morning Ricky. Yes, Abe Froman, the Sausage King of Chicago, one of my favorite movies. Well, yes, not getting injured absolutely is important, Emilio. Absolutely true. And yes, the opener is going to be lighted, whereas Tom says lit. I think the kids say lit. But no, the return of Miggy, all of the new faces, all of the exuberance of optimism beginning anew. 22nd, we're 19 days away from the home opener. Everybody's like, well, what are you going to talk about in the 7 weeks that the season's over? Oh, there's plenty to talk about. Plenty to talk about. Plenty to talk about. So yes, it is going to be lighted. I think Kirk Cousins drove here. I think, Ricky. I think that is in fact the case. I think that is true. And Tom, Tom Ropes, and all of our resident Evertonians, very, very happy. David Moyes is getting Everton well away from the relegation zone when it comes to the Premier League. Which reminds me, tomorrow I know normally is our day to discuss Premier League and all the other things. Tomorrow is going to be a late afternoon show. Just to give you the public service announcement. Tomorrow is the day of the doctor's visits for both me and the boss. And I got my text from I don't know if you guys get this from your resident physicians or not. How you get notified on things? I've set it like the text notification bit, and I got a text on the weekend. It's like, yeah, you got a doctor's appointment on Tuesday, and it's your yearly physical. And so the boss has her, and by the way, this is the boss's fat head. Yeah, the boss got her fat head from her work when she was doing the backup singing for her company's Law Rocks, and so now she officially has a fat head, so she will always be here in the office with us. And so when I always talk about the boss, now you know what the boss looks like. So you had her doctor's appointment because we talked about her wrist, and her wrist is going to get looked at by the orthopedist tomorrow morning. So I'm thinking, okay, we could do, like something after lunch, something like that. But then I get my text from my doctor's office that I have a 2:00 on Tuesday, and it's my yearly physical. So that's going to be just amazingly fun. And I get to do that. So when we come back, yes, Ricky, I am. I will be back on the Halo board this year. So you have to put up with me doing pregame and halftime with the Hoff. So yes, I am coming back. And so the boss has a 10:00 with her orthopedist. My guess is they're going to take that big wrap off her left arm and put a smaller cast in it. And so that's what I'm anticipating, but I've got to go there in case they give her the appropriate painkillers. And then just to make sure that she can get from point A to point B. She's like, oh, no, I can drive. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what if they give you, something that's for the pain and it's not recommended that you drive? So I will be driving the boss to her appointment at 10. And then I have my yearly physical at 2. And I will guarantee you that I will be in the parking deck long enough for them to get at least an hour's worth of parking money out of me. That's how this works with them. This might be more open and kickoff-ish than anything else. But literally, I go to my doctor's office, and you go in, you park, and you get your timestamp ticket and everything. Every single time I go, like clockwork, I sit more in the office than I do actually get examined, looked at, have things to do, get blood drawn, what have you. Just enough to where it's just over the hour limit. So where, if you're like 0 to 30 minutes, it's free. 30 to an hour, it's a certain rate. And then you get past an hour, and then it's that bigger rate. Every single time I go, and this is like clockwork, you sit there and it's like, yep, you're there for like an hour and 8 minutes. So then you have to pay like the hour rate of like $12 or whatever it is. But it's never in between 15 and 30. They get you right past the 60, and then they'll check you out. Let me see if that's the same with Bart when he goes to his physicians. Oh, and by the way, Bart has a surprise for us. You want to tell everybody what the surprise is, Bart?
Hopefully that the audio works today.
Yeah, that is it. That is the absolute surprise. I wanted to make sure that folks knew that Bart had a surprise. And literally after the show, when Bart was on with us last time, I called Bart back and it's like, all right, let's figure this out. So what was it? It was not my fault, was it?
No, it was a number of safeguards that were up to make sure that people, I guess, aren't stealing or tapping into you. I don't know, but required some extra steps of security measures and preferences.
So now that
I don't know.
Now that you have been secured and preferred, you're ready to go, basically.
I suppose so.
All right. So what I wanted to do was go over a couple of things. Obviously, we have reffing down here that we'll be getting into in a bit. But I wanted to start with you this week with the NWSL, since we haven't had the chance really to kind of get into some things. There are some topics that have hit the boards. And the first one is the new expansion team that has hit the bricks, and it's in Denver. Denver is the new one on the board in the NWSL. What do you think?
Well, I think from a geographic standpoint, John, this does make sense. It provides a natural rival to the Utah team. It provides a little bit of an expanded footprint on the map. That said, there were other contenders who could have also achieved a similar goal. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the biggest bidder was Cincinnati. I think Cleveland was probably second best, but Cincinnati was one that was almost, it was turnkey. And so I am a little surprised that NWSL opted out of a franchise in Ohio, which has been a great state for the sport of soccer, at least on the men's side. To my knowledge, I'm trying to think, going back through all the iterations of the professional leagues, there's never been an Ohio-based women's professional franchise. And so to that end, I think we can maybe infer that they don't see the potential there, but this is the first one that's happened in Colorado as well. Mm-hmm. I think that the underlying story was just that, hey, Colorado's bid, Denver's bid, outpaid what Cincinnati was willing to do. Obviously, the Colorado bid will have to figure out a stadium down the line, but I think why NWSL is a little less frightened is there's a perfectly good stadium, John, within the Denver area that they can play in.
It's
I'm sure
out by Laramie, Wyoming, though.
Right. I'm sure if we were to ask our friend Jason how he feels about the stadium and getting to it and staying anywhere near it, he would have some choice words. But it is a perfectly legitimate soccer stadium and training ground, right, where they could probably find that partnership. But I think the promise of building a new NWSL specific stadium also intrigued the league, which I don't think is necessary. I think I'm glad Kansas City did what they did, but I think sometimes you need to be smart and not overly ambitious. Mm-hmm. However, I think the Denver team is a good idea in terms of just expanding the footprint and finding something that clearly has financial backing.
Now you've got more folks that are interested. Boss Nation is right now, their demolition of the stadium as they're getting ready to be bosses in their nation. Currently on hold because it was a deadlocked.
David, I said soccer, not women's sports. Sorry. Talking about soccer.
Yep. So we're waiting on the stadium demolition up at Boss Nation. We're also waiting on the branding change and the name change at Boss Nation. But, right now the league is still one of the best on the planet. And one of the other things that I wanted to discuss with you about it was Tarcion leaving Houston on the third highest ever women's transfer fee.
Yeah.
And right now, Brazilian defender, who I think is like 6'8". I mean, literally, she looks like LeBron James out there when she's defending for Houston. Almost $800,000 from Houston to Lyon. So Lyon, currently, Eagle Sports, right now, I'm just hoping that everything is okay. Lyon is Michelle Kang. That's right. I think
Michelle King owns the women's side of the Olympic Lyonnais.
Yeah. So this is Mrs. Michelle Kang money, so we know that the check will clear. This is a good thing.
Yeah. Wow.
So 800. Well, but and don't be surprised. Do not be surprised.
Still associated a little bit with Lyon and Eagle Sports, so we'll see. But yes.
Don't be surprised if down the line, after a couple of years, Tarcion ends up back in the NWSL. Oh, I don't know, in Washington D.C. Just kind of saying. I'm putting it out there as an idea.
Yeah. I think again, this is just one. Good for her.
Mm-hmm.
A transfer of this size usually means good things for the players as well. Means you're probably going to get a nice little payday.
Mm-hmm.
But this kind of does go back to what we talked about on Friday, and the fact that this is a large sum of money for a team to play on a transfer fee. And would an NWSL team have paid this for Tarcion? Now, no one's arguing whether she's good or not, but is she worth to an NWSL team nearly $500,000? That is the question. I'm not here to answer that because I am not an NWSL general manager, owner, chief soccer officer, right? I'm just saying that they probably did not, for Dash especially, they go, yes, this is valuable to us.
Yeah.
They can use this money to reinvest in their squad. They're trying to revamp things down there in Houston. But for the rest of the league, maybe they're not interested as much. Or maybe it's just Lyon is able to pay the money. And this is something that NWSL needs to figure out. I think this is more Lyon needed a center back and saw her as an option and was willing to pay the money to Houston. I don't think any of the other teams were necessarily looking for a center back like Tarcion and looking to pay the money for that. But good for her.
Well, and to the loop around point in all of this, then I guess my transitive question would be, would Washington Spirit pay that kind of a flat out cash fee for a defender like Tarcion? But like I said, yeah, you're kind of going around the horn to do it. But first off, do we know is there an intra-league trading mechanism for cash where if you want to do something like this, where MLS has just started this? I don't think the NWSL has an intra.
No, it does not have the mechanism that MLS has now created, the cash transfer market.
So for me, my question would be, is this Michelle Kang betting down the line where, okay, so I'm going to have Lyon pick up Tarcion for the payday that we're giving Dash. And then maybe, after a year or two, Lyon wins a couple things. Tarcion continues to gain more experience. Maybe there's a transfer for Tarcion from Lyon to Washington Spirit, and you're just kind of going like this with the red solo cups on the board here.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there, John. It's possible that there's, a little bit of a city football group
Is
thing
Michelle
going on there.
Kang playing Vulcan chess in the NWSL is what I'm getting at, I guess.
Very possibly. But I also think, again, that when you look at, how do I put this nicely? Spirit have not had a problem finding success on the field over the past couple seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Houston has.
Yeah. Yes.
And
true.
were they looking at Tarsiani as an actual option? I don't know. You know, I'm not. I genuinely do not know, because we haven't really seen it play out that much. What the physical relationship, the familial relationship is between Kang's group of clubs, because Lyon is not, as a club, doesn't need to necessarily partner with Spirit or others to be, a behemoth in the women's game.
Right.
So they may have just seen Tarsiani as a young center back who has the potential to be impactful, not just now, but down the line. And if that's so, then, well, that makes sense. They're not in, they don't have the history of being they collect the good players. They're not shuttling them out, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, no, it does.
So
Yeah.
I think you're being a little conspiratorial.
Oh, what? Never.
And I just don't think that is what this move is. But yeah, sure. I mean, she could come back to NWSL for Spirit, but I don't think this is the type of move. Mainly because you set that bar so high. I don't think the bid necessarily was something that they were bidding against other teams. Certainly not in NWSL. So, why was $500,000 $485? But that's a decent chunk of change to then have to, presumably, if things go well for her in France, have to pay more in a couple years' time.
Okay. Well, like I said, you know me. I'm always trying to find relationships and angles, and benefiting the city football
Totally.
group, like you were saying. Just trying to sit here and say, well, okay, could this happen down the line? And don't be surprised if it does. That you're kind of sitting there because you don't have the mechanisms that you probably should have. Are you kind of sitting there and saying, maybe down the line, Tarsian, she gets some reps, she gets more starts than she did with Dash. She's hanging out at Lyon. She's doing really well. Ooh, I need a defender in Washington.
It's very possible, but I think you're being you're thinking way outside of the box when there doesn't need to be a box that we're thinking outside of.
Oh, come on. Okay. All right. So, you want to go ahead and get your Arsenal Manchester City discussion out of the way as we head toward reffing down here?
Yes.
Uh-huh. See, and you didn't even raise your pinky. You didn't even raise your pinky.
No, we're not going for classy today, John, because Manchester City doesn't deserve that.
And so he has his Arsenal mug.
Stay humble, eh? Yeah, well, shut up and deal with your financial impropriety, which you're somehow getting off of again, even though we all know you cheat up to high heaven. So
it's lawyering, man. You get the lawyering and the filibustering, and you get all that squared away. So, okay, so go ahead, lay it all out there.
Well, look, it's great to finally have the edge over Manchester City, because for the longest time they were not just our downfall from a matchup perspective, but for the past couple of years while we've been chasing titles, they've still been really good. And one of the reasons we haven't been able to win those titles is because they would beat us despite success against all the other top clubs.
Yes.
Obviously this year, Liverpool has somehow worked some sort of voodoo magic to regain success. And that's frustrating because Arsenal's having this is a pretty darn good team who unfortunately has come up against some injuries and other unfortunate bounces and referee decisions that have caused us to drop some points along the way. But this match specifically, the 5-1, felt really good. Obviously, you add to that the women's team going up to Manchester and beating Manchester City 4-3 in their, make-believe, Make-A-Wish stadium. And, that is, I think, it was a good feeling yesterday as an Arsenal supporter to watch both our teams beat Manchester City despite all their cheating and trying. I'm sorry, allegedly.
Until it is proven, right, at the highest of the highest sports courts on the planet, then
We don't have any City fans in the chat, do we? I don't think
I
we
don't
have
I
anyone
don't I don't believe
who
in
is
switch pitch we have
depraved and degraded.
No, I think that Drew Dickinson is United. I think we have things on the United side of the street. So I think that that SDH is red. I think is probably the best way to phrase it. The SDH is red.
Also, I just want to point out that it's a great testament to playing the kids, John. You had Winieri get a goal, but Miles Lewis Skelly, who has come on fantastically in a season we needed him because we lost a lot of left back production and minutes with some injuries. Great to see him come on and get the goal that, if he were to continue to do that, we would be very happy.
Filibuster for a minute, will you?
Well, again, it's about playing the kids. It's about finding your way, the Arsenal way, to continue to win games. And that was, I think, something that has always been, for me anyway, something that has differentiated Arsenal from a lot of the other clubs in the Premier League, especially since the Chelsea spending started. Chelsea upheaved a lot of what the Premier League was trying to do with, yes, you spent money on top players, but you were still trying to organically build the roster. And then, some Russian billionaire, billionaire decided
who apparently is living high on the hog in Turkey with
good for him
off his rather large yacht.
Good for him. And they keep doing it. I don't know, John. We were talking NWSL earlier, but there were about 17 different players, most of whom from the women's national team, linked with the Chelsea women's team during the transfer window because Todd Bowley, if there's one thing he'll do, it's buy players. Is there a strategy to it? That's another story entirely. No. But he will buy players.
By the way, in getting the Tarsion, and thank you for filibustering, by the way, it's the downside of having a blueberry scone. The Chelsea, we mentioned last week, Chelsea paying 1.1 for Naomi Girma in San Diego, and then San Diego pulling in a transfer of their own that was, I think, in the neighborhood, I think it was 400. Then you had Bay paying just under 800,000 to Madrid for Rachel Kundananji a year ago. And so Tarsion is now number 3 on the board when it comes to highfalutin transfers in the NWSL. So
I think age has a lot to do with that for her. I think similarly with Girma, where you see this as an investment for something the women's game is now finally able to do, is look long term. A lot of the women's contracts you were seeing, if they were long term, it was 3-4 years. You are able to now look long term and say, look, Tarsiani is a long term investment for Lyon, right? Especially a team that is looking at probably some of their center backs not being around that much longer. You want a girl who has a silver medal hanging around her neck, which is better than any French center back has done, by the way. And that at 21, okay, well, if you have her for 5 years, that's 100,000 a year. That pays off, and possibly even longer. I mean, you do look at a woman like Rendy Renard, who has been the face of French football, face of Lyon for, it feels like 72 years, because she's just been playing there for so long, and she's been so good. And I think Tarsiani fits a little bit of that mold as well. I don't know if she's going to be banging in penalty kicks like Renard does, but I think that's kind of what they're looking at, is they've got some players on Lyon that are aging out. They're on the wrong side of 30, maybe the wrong side of 28. So from a long-term perspective, which Michelle Kang is going to do because that's what she's known to do in her business world, which again, what we're seeing in WOSO is actual long-term strategies, because we have the financial backing to do it. Before this, you would not have been able to do that. You would have been struggling to put together a team year in and year out. Now we have solid financial footing for a lot of these clubs, even the big clubs. You finally get the financial footing that you're able to continue to look and build for the future. So I think that's what we're seeing specifically with the Girma and Tarsiani moves, is you're seeing clubs look at them and go, this is someone who can be here for 4, 5, 6 years, hopefully anyway.
Yeah, inbound transfers, just to give folks an idea. Angel City has brought in Maria from Kobe Leonessa. Alana Kennedy from Manchester City goes to Angel City this year. You've had your handful of signings. I'm still trying to get the whole. I'm still trying to get the whole stars thing, and it's not just red stars anymore.
Just call them red stars, John. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, they ain't paying me any money to call them stars. So Gotham, you bring in Gabi Portillo from Corinthians. You bring in Stella Nyamyeke from Dreams Ladies in Ghana. You did the trade for AM and transfer funds and a roster spot for Shelby Hogan. And then Jalen Howell comes in from Seattle for Lynn Williams and Cassie Miller. Houston, Messiah Bright came from Angel City for the 6 figures in intra-league transfer funds and up to $50,000 in incentives.
So that's the GAM, right?
Yeah.
But we don't have the cash still in NWSL, which is Messiah Bright probably could have gone abroad.
Yeah.
For more than $150,000.
Yeah. Yasmin Ryan, $400,000 in allocation money and a roster spot. Kristen Westfall from San Diego, $14,000 in allocation money. I'm guessing that's all that they had left on the table at San Diego.
I guess. Yeah.
It's like, okay, so how much AM do you have left? When we got or you're looking under the sheets, you found your sofa pizza, you found your pence, you found your pennies. We got 14,000 in AM. Okay, we'll take it. Haley Hopkins goes to KC from the Courage for $50,000 in intra-league transfer funds. Rocky Rodriguez from Angel City for $100,000 in intra-league transfer funds. A lot of college signings this year.
Well, remember, John.
Yes.
No more draft.
That's true. Yes.
So that is the other thing why I think a lot of these we're seeing players who are leaving, and clubs are like, yeah, we'll take the money.
Mm-hmm.
Because worst case scenario, you take the money you got from Naomi Garma or Tarsiane and say, okay, we'll get a couple of college center backs and go, what if they work out?
Mm-hmm. Jaden Shaw traded from San Diego.
A big one.
Yes. Jaden Shaw to Courage from San Diego. $375 in AM, $300 guaranteed, $300 in intra-league transfer fees, half of that guaranteed. International slots in 25 and 26. Chalufia comes from comes from Juarez to Orlando. Let's see. You've also got Diane Limera from Flamengo to Portland on a transfer. San Diego equally busy. Get this. You bring in Kenza Dali from Villa on a transfer. Favor Emmanuel from Lokomotiv Moscow on a transfer. That's a random one. Cynthia Cabezas comes from America to Cali, but she was loaned to Lexington SC. And that's another part that I find interesting, that you see the loans going from NWSL to USL Super League. And so you're seeing these kinds of relationships as well. And you also saw some folks being loaned out to the Northern League as a part of the building of their rosters too. So you're seeing a lot of symbiotic relationships here, with the league in Canada trying to jump off and be successful out of the blocks. The NWSL and USL Super League trying to figure their ways through the whole thing too.
Well, I'm not being dismissive of Super League because I think it's a valuable and needed league in the women's soccer ecosystem in this hemisphere.
Right.
But I think this is NWSL reminding everyone, no. We are the first division league.
Yes.
But that's not a bad thing, because as we've said for a long time, there is talent to go around, not just in the NWSL, not just for Super League, but around this continent from Panama up and including those islands out to the east. There's tons of talent here. And that's something that NWSL can tap into, that I think a lot of European leagues are going to be envious of, is you can go to Jamaica and get the next up and coming player a lot easier, right? That scouting is easy because you're going to play them in a competition probably soon. The Costa Rican national team has some players that you can look at. Some of the Mexican national teams that, hey, look, you're doing great in Liga MX, but, as we see, you can sign maybe someone who's not quite at the top of that, but someone who can still provide some either depth or fill into a roster, a starting lineup, and be a contributor. So for NWSL to utilize all of its assets right now is smart on their part, because Super League needs talented players. NSL needs players, period.
Yes. Yeah.
I am curious how they're going to continue to grow that from a Canadian perspective, because obviously we know the Canadian women's national team is pretty darn good, but a lot of the Canadian women's national team players are not going to come to the Northern Super League to play because it doesn't project to be the highest quality, right? You've still got players from that gold medal team in Europe playing for Chelsea, Lyon, places like that, where why are you coming home? You know, when you're in one of the best clubs in the world, period.
Yep.
You still got some that are making moves within NWSL to stay here. So we'll see how that one goes. But I think it's good for NWSL to take advantage of the removing the college draft, being able to sign players as they feel like it, but then also being able to say, okay, well, look, we signed you out of the college draft, but we can now afford to move you somewhere else for a season or two.
Yep, absolutely. So NWSL reminds everybody that they are, in fact, the big dog. All right, let's get into reffing down here for this week. And first and foremost, Bournemouth and Liverpool. So was the reaching out by Lewis Cook on Cody Gakpo, was that a penalty?
Was it called a penalty? Yeah. This one I think is a tough one, because I've seen plenty of penalties like this where, yes, there's contact, and yes, that probably means it's a foul. It's a tripping foul, right? We go to Law 12 and look at what all the direct free kick fouls are. It's probably a tripping foul.
Yeah, because he clips boots with him. So basically,
is it intentional, John? I don't think so. You know,
no,
and that's the thing. It doesn't
intent
matter.
Yeah.
So is it a penalty kick? Yes, because it's a foul inside the penalty area for tripping.
Yeah. So and I think that this is something that folks kind of get lost in. Intent is irrelevant in these kinds of situations.
Intent only really matters when we're talking about red cards. And that's because you have to be able to, as a referee, infer a little bit of intent, right? Again, is that elbow intentionally being swung back to hit a guy in the nose, or is it just, I'm going up to challenge for a ball? And that's where, as a referee, you do have to judge a little bit of intent. But again, that's that's where serious foul play and violent conduct. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's not. I mean, it doesn't matter if he intended to trip him. He unfortunately caught his back leg, and I would even go as far to say that Gakpo's leg caught him.
But I mean, but the thing
doesn't matter.
Cody Gakpo's looking forward. Lewis Cook is behind him. I don't think Cody Gakpo is sitting there and he's looking over his shoulder. I think I'm going to run.
No, that was not at all. And I think Continent Mind, to your point, yes, it's a penalty. I'm not arguing that.
Yeah,
it's not a yellow card. It's not a dog so situation. Right? So we're not looking at that. It's not a reckless foul. It did not rise to any sort of a yellow card caution situation, right? It's not because, it's dog so penalty, so we have to he wasn't making an illegitimate play on the ball, you know, and you could argue he wasn't even intending to do anything. He was just there. There's no reason for this to have been given a caution. This is just a foul that happened inside the penalty area.
And there was another moment late that folks are going to sit there and go, "Ooh, drop ball! What happened?" You know. Yeah. So
this is one of my favorite things, John. I actually do want to hit on this.
Okay. So it was a drop ball late.
No, it's not. He wasn't. It's not a dog so situation. It wasn't. The distance to goal, sure. Direction of play, not really. He was on the far edge of the penalty area.
Inside
defenders behind everyone, sure. Defenders were there to cover, right? And direction of play, no, sorry. It's not dog so. It's not. It's just not. Sorry.
No worries.
Anyway.
Yeah.
What were we talking about?
Drop ball late. So drop ball late in the field of play. And so you feel free if you feel compelled to compare this to what happened with Grand Theft Jamal, if you wish.
It's not comparable. But
okay, so then we'll put that to the side. So drop ball in the field of play, and the team for which the center ref is dropping the ball too, so they can start play, choose not to touch for whatever reason. They do not touch the ball, and the ball is stolen by the team that was not intended to get the drop, and they go off and running. Everybody was freaking out about this, that, oh, it's a drop ball. And so,
Yeah, it is a drop ball.
well, but and that the team that you're dropping it for gets to touch it first and all those kinds of things. But it's not so fast, my friend, in that case.
No. So obviously, John, we know that the drop ball has changed relatively recently. Used to be, you would have a player from each team challenging for it optionally. A lot of times, if it was something that happened in the penalty area, the other team would just let the goalkeeper have it. But we have changed it within the last half decade to allow for this to be a less to be a restart of play. It's literally in Law 8, which is the start and restart of play. To be a restart of play for things that aren't fouls that happen, right? So I forget exactly why this was, but a lot of times this happens because someone's injured and they actually need medical treatment. Like, we need to stop play, right? Head injury, or if it's one of those where the referee's like, oh, this is an actually bad injury. Like, he may have broken something. Or the other one is if there's interference from outside of the play or stuff like that. But anyway, ball hits the referee, that kind of stuff. This is why we use drop balls, because it's just a way to restart play.
Right.
The reason we decided to do it to just one team is because oftentimes what we were seeing is the drop ball was given when there was the play was going on, right? That's the point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very clearly there's a team in possession. So it's not fair to have some sort of contest for this drop ball when a team was clearly in possession. So we said, okay, well, only one team is given it. The other team has to be 4 yards away. Now, that said, the laws clearly state the ball is in play when it touches the ground. That's it.
Therefore,
so that means anyone can play it. Now, that said, there are a couple caveats to this, and this would have possibly come up had things gone a little differently.
okay.
No matter what, someone else has to touch the ball before it goes into the back of the net. Anyone. So the player who's taking the drop ball has to pass it or whatever to someone else. Or in this instance, the player who steals the ball because the dropped ball team didn't want to play it quickly enough for some reason, they would have to pass it to someone else, or someone that the other team, would have touched it. It's basically an indirect free kick in that regard. But they're fully within their rights to go up there. I mean, as soon as that ball is on the ground, they are able to break that 4-yard barrier.
Okay.
Right? Go take it. That's
Okay.
just the law. But yeah, someone would have had to touch the ball before it goes in the back of the net, and had it done that, would have been a goal kick to restart. But would have been really funny though. It was definitely one of those instances, John, where I understand the frustration, because you think, oh, what do you mean? This is our drop ball.
Right.
No, the drop ball is just to allow you more time to play it. Now, this could spark a law change.
Okay.
To be, okay, well, the team in possession gets the drop ball and must touch it before the other team can play or something. I could see that happening, but the reason we don't really have that is because the drop ball is not supposed to be a free kick restart. It's just supposed to be a restart of play when something broke up whatever flow we had.
Okay. One of the other ones that I wanted to get into, and it kind of goes back into the idea of reviewing more than one thing at a time.
Oh, okay.
On a kind of looking backwards, where if something happens, then you have to look at, okay, well, if a goal is scored, then you had a foul here, but you had a foul previous. And so going backward and looking at multiple things and working your way backward to come through a decision. I think I'm interpreting this correctly.
Okay.
And it's the decision in Wolves and Villa, where it is referred to by Dale Johnson as subjective offside against Morgan Rogers on Semedo. And so the ultimate decision was that it was no goal. So Villa thinks they've got an equalizer. Short free kick played along the ground into the area of John McGinn, who squares, and then the assistant raises his flag immediately for offside in the buildup, checked by VAR, no goal. And so then the explanation is, okay, so if a goal is disallowed for like an offside, misconception is that it's a foul, but Wolves had already benefited going backward. And so what you're doing, it's from interference from an offside position.
Correct.
And so you have to look at multiple things in a situation. So goal is scored, you wave the goal off, but you're going backward to look at multiple things to see, okay, that's okay, but then there might have been a foul in the buildup getting to the pass that led to the goal. So working backward, I guess, is what I want to get at here.
Well, I'm going to stop you because you used the wrong term.
Okay, fine.
Foul is not relevant for an offside.
Okay.
What we're looking at, did a player interfere with and gain an advantage by being in an offside position? So did they gain an advantage by being in an offside position is all we're looking at. So did they interfere with play by playing or touching a ball passed or touched by a teammate? In this case, no, right? I don't think at all the player, I forget who basically was the one who was judged offside. I don't think he touched the ball at all in the sequence.
Right.
But you can interfere with an opponent, and that can put you in an offside offense. So preventing an opponent from playing or being able to play the ball by clearly obstructing the opponent's line of vision or challenging an opponent for the ball or clearly making an obvious action which impacts the ability of the opponent to play the ball. And I think in this specific case, you're allowing for some mental leaps of faith, but the way the ball was played, it's not unlikely that the player who ended up having to, I think they peeled off the wall. I'm trying to remember the sequence exactly, but the player that was blocked by the offside player could have potentially defended the cross because it was not a straight free kick. It was a free kick played to the side, basically as a through ball. The defender maybe could have defended, challenged that player for the ball, and he was not allowed to do that. So because it was a very clearly obvious obstructive move, right? It wasn't like, oh, I'm standing there and you ran into me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
The offending player moved and then to an extent pushed. You could almost see that this could have been a foul. I'll be very honest, because there were two hands shoved at the player. It really wasn't. It was more like an offensive lineman blocking on a pass rush, but it was obstructing a player from being able to play the ball, and that is interfering with the opponent. When you're in an offside position, if you do that, you're offside. It's not a foul. That's fine. You still interfered with an opponent. Therefore, you're offside.
Okay. Yeah. So that was because there are times where you will have a goal waved off in VAR or goal under review in VAR, and it will be about multiple things that happen. So if it's like a checklist, okay, event number 1 cleared. All right, let's go back and look at event number 2, because if event number 2 is actually
in this goal specifically, John, I'm not quite sure what their order was, because I don't know what the referee put his flag up for.
Right.
Obviously, it was offside. I don't know if he flagged the player who did the impeding, or if he thought one of the two players that I think the first player missed the ball, but easily could have been judged to be offside. And then the second player who scored, I don't know but that would have been the order of operations. Is okay, the guy who scored, was he offside? No.
Okay.
Was there another player who was in the area who probably could have interfered with play? I think the guy sliding at the goalkeeper looking for the ball, challenging an opponent for the ball, I think that would have been probably part of that, or you could have easily judged that's gaining an advantage by being in an offside position, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay, fine. Then you go back to okay, let's look at the first kick of the sequence, right, off the free kick, and that's where they found this. Now, again, I don't remember. I didn't, because I wasn't watching it live, so I didn't get to hear the live commentary if they flagged that player being offside immediately, or if they thought another one was. But regardless, I got the call right.
Okay. Before you get out of here, I wanted to get into a little stupidity down here this morning. And it has to do with the.
We're not even in the MLS season here yet, John.
I know. But it's lawyering down here, and it's also stupidity down here.
Oh boy.
And I know that you and I are of the same thought pattern when it comes to this, but the trial of Luis Rubiales has started, and Jenny Hermoso is the first one that was brought forth as a witness. Maya Davies at the BBC is monitoring the case in Madrid, and Hermoso said that the kiss stained one of the happiest days of my life, told the court in Madrid, quote, my boss was kissing me and this shouldn't happen in any social or work setting, end quote. Right now, and Hermoso told the court she'd never given permission to be kissed, felt disrespected as a woman. I greeted the queen. I greeted her daughter. The next thing was meeting Rubiales, end quote. From the BBC. Hermoso said she and the then president of the Royal Spanish Football Federation hugged and celebrated, quote, next thing he did was to grab me by the ears and kiss me on the mouth. I didn't hear or understand anything. A kiss on the lips is only given when I decide so. No one came to ask me how I was after the kiss, she told the trial on Monday. The footballer said she felt completely abandoned by the federation. She continued to celebrate, quote, the greatest achievement of her life with her teammates. Quote, there was no place for me to be crying or lying in the corner of the dressing room, end quote. Other players initially made fun of the incident before Irene Paredes intervened to say, stop, this is serious. Hermoso said she was pulled aside after the kiss, asked to consent to a statement minimizing the incident, which she refused to do. Then added that Rubiales asked her to record a video with him on the flight home because he was being accused of assault on social media. Quote, I said no, that I was not going to do anything, that I was not the cause of this, end quote. She said people were huddled around Rubiales during the flight and that she saw his daughters crying. The footballer said her life had been on standby until the trial began on Monday. Now plays for club football in Mexico as well as for Spain's national team. Prosecutors are calling for Rubiales to receive a 1-year prison sentence for sexual assault, also calling for him to be given a sentence of 1.5 years for coercion for allegedly trying to pressure Hermoso into saying publicly that the kiss was consensual. Rubiales denies the charges. At the time, Rubiales said the kiss had been consensual and denounced a so-called witch hunt by, quote, fake feminism, comma, closed quote, before resigning his position. 3 of his former colleagues also on trial of coercing Hermoso into saying the kiss was consensual. Jorge Vilda, coach of the team, Ruben Rivera, the federation's former head of marketing, and former sporting director Albert Luque all deny the charges. Spain's equality minister Ana Redondo thanked Hermoso for her bravery in a post on the 280-character app. Shortly before the trial started, the trial runs for another 16 days on the calendar. So Luis Rubiales finally being brought to bear about blanking time.
Well, goodness, 1.5 years after the situation.
Only took
obviously we want
justice
justice to be served.
Yeah.
But I think the most important thing to remember is that what Hermoso kind of said is this is taking away any sort of joy she can have from winning a World Cup. And that's the sad part here is this took away her moment.
Yeah. And obviously, we'll keep an eye on the proceedings as they go for the next 16 days. And also, apparently, Millie Bright has posted a message on her IG calling out fan abuse she has suffered after they had asked for a photo. She says, quote, we are not robots. We are not collectibles. We are humans the same as you, end quote. And so
this has been an issue within WOSO as it continues to be more legitimized and professionalized. And I'm trying to be, I support the players in saying, like, look, I can't just like sit back and take photos and sign autographs after every game.
Yeah.
Because they're right. But I understand a little bit the fan point of view, especially for some of the younger fans, because in the past, you would have been able to go to games and probably take photos and get autographs, stuff like that. But you don't get to do that. You don't have that expectation anyway if you go to a men's game. You know what I'm saying? If you do, we've seen especially Joseph and Tito take off clothes and throw them into the supporter section, which is fantastic and fun.
Yeah.
Women's games might have that too, but the expectation that you're going to get a photo with your favorite player at a men's professional game should be very low, right? You should have the hope. And I think that's the problem with a lot of these, is that for Millie and company, is that it's not that they don't want to necessarily, but for two reasons, they may not be able to. Either one, they're just not in the headspace to do it. I'm sorry. If I lose a game, the last thing I want to do is go take photos and sign autographs. Like, I'm just not in a happy mood.
Yep.
But two, they're professionals. They got to go do, post-game breakdown with the coach. They got to go get their therapy started, because especially with Millie Bright, I know she's probably got some knees that don't exactly work 100% of the time.
Yeah.
No offense, Millie, but I'm there with you.
Uh-huh.
and so, she's got to go. She's got a post-game routine that she has to get into. And we've had this issue with some of the NWSL versus, like, a lot of times national team games, like the U.S. women's national team, they will take time to do that. Mm-hmm. But if you go see Trinity Rodman at a Spirit game, like, that's probably not going to happen. But if you see her at a women's national team game, you might get a chance, maybe after warm-ups, to get an autograph. Do not expect that it'll happen. The game has changed. The game has professionalized, and they have a slew of other responsibilities. It sounds harsh, but again, this expectation would not be put on a men's professional player. So to have that expectation on a women's player is a little unfair and just a little naive.
All right. So what's going on at Soccer for USPOD?
We're going to hopefully record this week. We've got two guys who have kids, and those schedules are tough. But we are gonna take a little bit of Jason's challenge and kind of scope out what that 50-player pool looks like for us, because it will hopefully help color in what we need to be looking at going forward. And this will probably set the stage also for identifying not just the pool, but then saying, okay, where are our strengths and weaknesses, grading the positions, so center backs could be a D- and goalkeepers could be a D+. But that is because as we look at, what are we at, John? Like 490 days, 94 days until the World Cup starts.
Under 500, yes.
Under 500. You are now having to evaluate, okay, barring a major setback, we know who our locks are for 2026, but those are that's a short list. It truly is. And then further, when we look at the depth, who is the player who probably is favored right now, but their seed is not by any stretch safe? And how do we improve the player pool? So that's kind of the goal for the next two episodes. And then obviously this month we have She Believes Cup.
Mm-hmm. So episode CX of the Soccer.
Yeah, 110 hopefully will be another depth chart exploration.
You got it. As always, my friend, great to see you when things happen, when things break, and we try to fix it. And we're the soccer super glue when you come in on your Mondays and try to fix things when they break.
John, I know you and the crew had fun time in Magic City.
Oh, yeah.
The other one.
What? I was going to say now, careful, sir. The boss might have an issue with you there, man.
Yeah, the Magic City over in Alabama. She knows she's from Alabama. She knows what I'm talking about. I don't know how they got that nickname. I've never known Birmingham to be Magic at all. But good for Birmingham hosting everyone. I think. Look, it's unfortunate Memphis is no longer with us in that level of play.
Yep.
Birmingham will kind of be carrying the talisman for the Deep South in that regard. So good for them to continue to go on, and I'm glad y'all had some fun over there. Hope everyone who went out there also had fun.
Yep, man. Hope everybody got back safe and is getting ready for a week in Bradenton. Be safe, my
John,
friend.
we have Atlanta United regular season soccer this month.
I know. It's in 18 days, by the way.
3 weekends.
Uh-huh. Absolutely true. Yeah.
Hopefully a new kit comes out before then.
Yeah. And there's some crazy gear that's already been broken out. Very, very subtle stuff that I've got to add to the rest of my Atlanta United.
Yeah. What are you looking at? Because obviously they played in the training tops
that
are back to red, so I might have to buy one. like the red training top.
The training top and the new hooded sweatshirt that has like it doesn't have the V-neck, but it's got the where the V-neck would be. It's got it kind of blocked off to where it's not quite.
The new travel range looks nice. Yep.
Yeah. So that's where I am. And
have you seen? Can I ask you this? This is some on the fly investigative journalism.
Yeah.
Have you seen the new long sleeve training tops? Are they red as well?
I have not seen them.
Because the last I saw, they were just wearing gray.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't sure if but I saw the ones they played on Saturday were obviously the new template, and they were red. So I'm hoping that we get to see, the long sleeve quarter zip. That's my style, not a hoodie. But
no, look, if it's a hoodie and I can take the sleeves and I can tuck them up, the only problem with Roots of Fight is that they don't have you can't tuck them up all the way. They kind of stop because of how they're hemmed.
Yeah.
But
they are a little tighter. They're made for athletic bodies.
Yeah. So which I am not. And my physician will remind me of that tomorrow when I have my.
John, I have mine on Friday. I'm not looking forward to it either.
Right there with you, brother. So we're going to be catching all kinds of hell, and but there's probably going to be some ads, and I know that the boss will wear it before I will. Trust me. It's going to come in the house, and she'll go ooh, and then she'll pick it up, and she'll just kind of walk it.
Well, what's yours is hers, and what's hers is hers.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
And I learned that early on in our relationship that yes, what's mine is hers, and what's hers is hers, and there the twain shall meet. Just be good, my friend. Catch up soon, and we will continue to see what's going on at Bradenton. And when we know more, we'll talk more. How about that? All right. So Bart had a secret, and he had some breaking news that the microphone works, and that's always a good thing. And so official is the Jack McGlynn transaction with Philadelphia and Houston. That is now officially official. And the Dynamo in one of the kind of deals that we are now starting to see involving Major League Soccer. Saw it over the weekend. We talked about it in Birmingham. Dejan Joveljic to Sporting Kansas City for $4 million. That is a straight-up cash transfer inside the league. So we are seeing that. It has now happened, and now Jack McGlynn is now officially a part of Houston Dynamo for this. First ever cash for player for a homegrown in MLS history. McGlynn had 108 appearances for Philly, 7 goals, 15 assists, number 3 spot on the 22 under 22. And I'm trying to see. So Houston has sent out a release. Paragraph from Pat Onstad. Then we have more detailed information about McGlynn. In 23, McGlynn had the highest passing percentage, 85.8% among all players on the team for the third consecutive year with at least 100 passes made. So now the details of the deal involving Jack McGlynn. McGlynn from Philly for $2.1 million. Houston could trade up to $1.3 million if certain performance-based metrics are achieved. So it looks like the total package could be 3.4. 2.1 off the top, another 1.3 if things are met. So Philadelphia will retain a sell-on percentage of any future transfer. McGlynn's going to occupy a U22 slot. Second cash for player trade in MLS history. First for an MLS homegrown player. So Jack McGlynn goes from Philly to Houston for 2.1, and it could be as high as 3.4. Philadelphia keeps a sell-on clause. By the way, Caleb Wiley officially official at Vicarage Road on loan from Chelsea to Watford for the remainder of the season. So that is sell-on not published, but Jonathan Tannenwald says it's 50% with pieces going to Red Bulls and NYC as previous. And this is the other element in this. So when it comes to transactions in the first place, it's a 60-40 split involving, it was like Philly and the New York area clubs, because Philly invaded the dibs zone for NYC teams and got McGlynn. So the way that it is, it's like it was a 60-40 split. At least it was initially that way. But so literally, if it is $1 million, or if it's like 10 million or something like that, then Philadelphia would only get like 1 million because they have to like parse it out to everybody else. So because they invaded the New York dibs zone, they do not get the full sell-on of McGlynn in the future, because no matter what the sell-on fee is, they still have to pay Red Bulls and NYC for violating the dibs zone when they picked up McGlynn in the first place. So if it's a 50% sell-on, then you're only getting a portion of it. I think, like I said, I think it's 60-40. So if it's, say if it just come up with a round number, 40% of it's out the door, and it's already heading to NYC and to Red Bulls, who split 20% each. So, I mean, for Philadelphia to have to continue to sell, first and foremost, the dibs idea is ridiculous. Just look, the NWSL has they don't have a draft anymore. I don't think that, you should have to fight for, if you see a player and you want him, you should be able to chase after him. Instead, he's in the territorial area of NYC and Red Bulls, you can't have him. Come on. The dibs thing just drives me crazy. You know that you've seen that from the show in the past. Dibs drives me nuts. But anyway, so McGlynn, 2.1, plus possibly another 1.3, and a sell on. Jonathan Tannenwald is reporting 50%, but Union don't even get all of that. And this, and I know I don't see Rich in with us this morning, but when Rich is here, what I want to do is I want to examine Philadelphia. I want to examine Philadelphia in this current administration, because you have Bradley Carnell now in as coach, and you have now sold one of your higher profile younger talents. I want to see what Philadelphia does to replace said individual. Or are they just going to sit on the cash and hope that Jack McGlynn balls out in Houston and that they get the 1.3 in incentives? And then if Houston sells him on, then they'll get 50% of a sell-on fee. So that's what, 30%? And then 40%, 20%. Yeah, so 20% to the New York City club, New York area clubs, 10% each. So if it's 60%, you get 50%, which is 30%, and then the other 10% goes the other ways. I want to see, Philadelphia intrigues me. Philadelphia intrigues me, and it's for the wrong reason. I want to know what the deal is with Philly. Are they just going to continue to be building young talent, like Kevin Sullivan already heading to CFG when he is of age? Are you going to continue to develop young talent, sell that young talent, and sit on the dollars? Because of the current style of play that you had under Jim Curtin, and then I anticipate you're going to have under Bradley Carnell. Considering Carnell comes from the Red Bulls tree, and we all know what Red Bulls are about. Did it in St. Louis for a year, plus a couple of matches. They freaked out. Now he was on the market. Now he's in Philly. Is it just going to be a bunch of older players that drive the rest of MLS crazy because of how they act on the field and how they are in a system? How different is it going to be under Bradley Carnell? What are you going to do with the 2.1 that you got from McGlynn? And are you going to sit on it? Work on your infrastructure like we've had the conversations in the past about Philly? Or are you just going to sit on the money and not do anything with it? Like I said, Philadelphia intrigues me, but it's not for the right reasons. Kevin Sullivan sold on. You're hanging on to him for a little while, but he's sold on. Jack McGlynn now sold to Houston. What do you do? What is Philadelphia going to do going forward? Are they going to be the same bunch of dudes in their late 20s, early 30s that just want to plow over people? And those are the kind of players that you want? The grinders. Arr. Hey, yo. One of those, is it going to be that kind of a club? Is it going to be worse with Carnell in the Red Bull system? What's it going to look like this year? I'm intrigued. So that's kind of where I am with Philadelphia. So catching back up with everybody. Tom wants to know about any of the remaining preseason games are going to be streamed. The one on the 15th is planned for that. It is planned that the one at the closed door session, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, will be. But they have to look at the logistics in Bradenton at IMG. And because I don't think it's like a true stadium, even if it's, a small high school stadium, nothing like that. I think it's just like individual fields. So if something is going to happen, it's going to take some investigating by Atlanta United for the 3 matches at IMG. Keep an eye out and keep an ear out for Jason. Follow Jason on all of your social medias, all the social meds, if you don't already, and his reports from 92.9, because I think he'll be down there for most of it, if not all of it. And so we'll find out from Jason. So keep an ear out on his social media, 92.9 The Game, for all of his appearances. You get the 3 matches. There should be game reports and so on. So keep an ear out for all of that stuff. So the game on the 15th, yes, when they're back here. The 3 in Bradenton at IMG Academy, don't know yet. Once again, keep Atlanta United. Keep going to the website. Follow Atlanta United on your social medias as well. And then they should have answer. All right. So, and thank you, Ricky, for as I sit here and I'm following through. Ricky beat me to it. Michael, being the resident Missourian here, show me. He's false hope before, waiting to see what they look like on the pitch. And Tom, we did talk about Kelechi Iheanacho and Samuel Illing Jr. Will, not a fan of the fullback depth, but remember, Amador injured for a couple of weeks. Matthew Edwards developing. I'm intrigued. I like the younger talent that's here. I mean, all you have to do when you look at Noah Cobb is the big hug that he got from Garth down in Fort Lauderdale when they played Messi and friends. Efren Morales trusted in for another contract. I want to see how he continues to develop. So that to me is what and Dominic Chong-Kui. We haven't even gotten into Dominic Chong-Kui yet. Dominic Chong-Kui might be accelerating his homegrown contract, right? He's on a 2's contract this year. He might be accelerating the homegrown deal if they can figure out a way to wangle it. What we've seen from Dominic Chong-Kui, once again, Left Back University, and I know we need to print the T-shirt, but Left Back University with Dominic Chong-Kui, we saw him show out again. Ronnie Dyla, after the match, could not have been any more highly complimentary about Dominic Chong-Kui. Really impressed with DCQ. So at the back, when healthy, and remember, you're getting Brooks Lennon back in a couple of months. It is Amador, Hernandez, Gregerson, Williams, Cobb, Morales, Abram, Lennon in a couple of months, Matthew Edwards. So that's what you're looking at the back. Did I miss anybody? Amador, Hernandez, Abram, Cobb, Morales, Gregerson, Williams, Edwards, Lennon, I think. I don't think I missed anybody. Lennon coming back, obviously, he's kind of circled and put in a different color and moved off to the side, but that's what you're looking at right now. Really, really enjoying what we're seeing out of DCQ. So that's going to be some fun stuff. All right. So morning, Will. Morning, Ricky. Let's see. They continue working there. Alex wondering about questioning Miggy's fitness midseason form. Training every day, should be much more fit than everybody. Hasn't been playing. Nothing to do with everyday work and readiness fitness. Let's see. And then quoting The Office. Will quotes The Office here in the morning. All right. So Ricky, morning Emilio, and let's see, morning Tom, morning Andy. Andy in this morning from the left coast, which is the best coast. Left coast, best coast, west coast, best coast. That's the one. All right. So let's see. No injury concern, and remember, Michael. Remember he's been playing, but now you have a couple of weeks of recovery and integration. So it would be him coming in. It's still fit, but then just kind of gauging where things are with the injury and making sure that he's going to be okay with it. Let's see. And you don't want to don't encourage an agent or a club to sit there and go to 30 right here on decision day. Do that like earlier in the window. Go earlier in the window and say, yeah, let's go. No, but right now, let's keep it at 22. See where we are. Okay, so let's see. Amelia reminding me it's 5 hours morning, Harry, and John's. Yes, Sean. No, yearly physical. Please stop drinking Mountain Dew. No, I'm good. Oh, and by the way, Ridge Rush is Mountain Dew, but way healthier. Ridge Rush. I've never heard of this, Sean. But also, apparently, there is a honeydew flavored, and I'm intrigued because all the others taste like Vicks Formula 44 cough syrup to me. They're all awful. A honeydew flavored Mountain Dew that was in Canada apparently is working its way down as a part of the production here in the United States. I'm intrigued. So we'll see what happens. Ricky apparently found the hard Mountain Dew at the Walmart. No, and I would not purchase it either. But there's a honeydew flavored Mountain Dew, and it is apparently working its way down here into the States for purchase and production. So we'll keep an eye. And Tom reminding us that Supporters Tailgate back at Lot 17. So back at Lot 17 this year. So that's good news there. Yes. And Bart, fantastic. Yes, that was the big secret, that we figured out what Bart's issues were. And it was like a bunch of different safeguards and everything that he had to click. Morning, Abby. Good to have you. David, clearly forgetting the Cleveland Rockers of the early WNBA. All right. So morning, Michael Valverde. Happy European window closing day to all. It would be fun to get an ELL announcement today. And if somebody was maybe dropping some ELO, it's only a couple of letters off. Let's see. Dead to rights penalty, and Michael going into the Liverpool discussion. Michael, discovery rights have worked out for Charlotte. I'd love to know who is on it. And this is another thing, too, is discovery rights for Charlotte. They had Marco Royce. Marco Royce was like, nah. And then they got $400,000 from LAG for him to see what's going on. And so now he goes to LAG and he wins the title. Then they had Miggy, and Atlanta knocked on their door, and Miggy was like, nope, don't want to go to Charlotte. Atlanta knocks on the door. Hey, let me get his discovery rights. Charlotte's like, sure. So it looks like $400,000 and Charlotte and discovery rights all seem to be in the same sentence. But yes, to your point, Michael, I'd love to know who Atlanta's are. But once again, we don't know all the salary things. That's something that's growing, getting the intra-league transfers and sales. That's a new thing. I would like to have full salary information just so we know where teams are up against the cap. What do they do? How do they massage it? What are the capologists doing? Those kinds of things. That's what I would like to see. But to your point, yeah, I'd like to have that kind of information for full disclosure also. Who is Atlanta's discovery rights? Who I'm sporting might be Cristiano Ronaldo. I don't know. And keep an eye out for that. Let's see. Ricky asking about streaming a game from IMG against a Swedish club or something in 2019. Or was it a different Florida location? Good question. Let me see if we got, hang on. 2019, Atlanta United preseason schedule. All right. So let's see if we could go back and see what it was back in 2019. January 3rd, 2019. All right. So, schedule release, combine, super draft, preseason. That didn't say. It gave the key dates, but it did not say in that particular article when training camp was. 2019 updated outlook. 2 schedule gets announced. Campeones Cup preview. See, now you're going to have me going down a rabbit hole. I'm going to have a rabbit hole chasing after that one. But yeah, really like what I'm seeing at a DCQ. Ronnie Dyla does as well. Really looking forward to that. So yeah, I'm going to have to go down a rabbit hole. I thought it was IMG. I think, Ricky, you might be right. But I think the way that it's laid out at the moment, they've got to figure out, because I don't think there are like true camera positions that they have to navigate and figure out. Okay, if camera here, booth here, equipment here, one of those. So that's that they've got to navigate all of that, and they got to figure out what it looks like. So your U22s are right now. It is just Edwin. Edwin's your only U22 player. Everybody else is homegrowns. Matthew Edwards is a homegrown. Will Riley is a homegrown. Luke, Noah, Jay, Ephra, Aiden Torres, all homegrowns. And then you get into other salaries and things like that. But you've got a lot of homegrowns. You only have the one U22. So right now, that's where Atlanta is. Ronan Wynn might be playing himself into if not some time with the twos, a roster spot with the first team after what we've seen so far. What we've seen from Togashi-san, came in Togashi, like what we saw from him in Birmingham as well. So there's some folks that have been added that we got to keep an eye on. But yeah, right now the only U22 listed by Spot Track is Edwin Mosqueda. So it's just Fast Eddie, and that's it. Let's see. Derek says Mountain Dew is nasty. How much is that going to cost soon? Don't know. That's a good question. Cost you 25% more, but the value of the loonie went down to 67 cents yesterday, lowest in 20 years. Yes, Michael, absolutely. Prague ELO shout out. Excited for R50 next month. I am too. And I will be intrigued if the boss ends up getting me that for my birthday. R50, 50 live cuts, if I believe, from Rush. And I think they interviewed Getty leading into it. And they went to his baseball collection, which really, Getty's baseball collection should be in Cooperstown. It really should. He's a massive baseball fan, and his autograph collection really should be in Cooperstown. But that's just me. 2020. Okay. Elfsborg against 2020. I can still actually watch that match. A draw against. Okay, so it was at IMG. Okay. So we'll keep an eye on IMG and production and all those kinds of things, and that's where we are. Okay. Let me go over the transactions that we know that have happened right now in Major League Soccer and get us updated. No, it was not that. Get the updated transactions. We'll go over what's going on overseas, knowing full well that once again, Sky and Peacock kick back in at about 45 minutes. So it's from midnight on, and we'll keep an eye on everything. Okay, so McGlynn we knew about. Jovic we knew about. Hoyeon Jung, 3-year contract with the Loons by transfer from an option from League One side Gwangju FC, includes an option for 28. Joao Pedro loaned from Charlotte to Rio Ave through June of 25. Maxi Falcone signed a 4-year deal with Messi and friends, transferring from Colo-Colo, which includes a 2029 option. Damian Loss, this was sneaky. Damian Loss loaned from Austin to Lou City. Keep an eye on that one. Facundo Farias signed by transfer from Inter Miami to Estudiantes. Guilherme Biro signed a 3-year contract extension, including a 28 with Austin. Gilberto Flores, we talked about him in Libertad. Options for 28 and 29. Jovan Mijatovic and Nico Romero was a transfer from Atletico Tucumán. Raheem Edwards signed a 2-year deal with Red Bulls, 27 option. Kim Ki-hee signed a 1-year deal with Seattle, includes a 26 option. Hennady Sinchuk, 4-year deal with FC Montreal on U22 from Metalist Kharkiv. Victor Laturi, a 2-year deal from Ross County, includes options for 27 and 28. Ilay Feingold, 3-year deal with New England via U22 from Maccabi Haifa, includes an option for 28. Crew signed at Inestrosa from Columbus to Atletico Nacional. We mentioned Christian McFarland, Federico Navarro to Rosario Central, Elijah Winder talking about to LAG, Bogush to Cruz Azul for $10 million, Von Zier to Ghent for 3 and a sell-on percentage. So that's where we are involving all of the up-to-date transactions in Major League Soccer. So Major League Soccer. All right, so let's go to our buddy Ben Jacobs, find out what's on Ben's radar as we get close to the afternoon and the home stretch. Milan now close to a loan agreement on Joao Felix. Talks have been going on for the last 48 hours. Mario Lemina set to join Galatasaray for £2.5 million. Al-Shabaab tried to sign him, but Lemina signs a 3.5-year deal to go to Galatasaray. Chelsea have agreed with Saint-Etienne to sign Matisse Amugu, first called by Matt Law of The Telegraph, can play the 6 or the 8. Chelsea, so it's 5 on the loan fee, full salary coverage on Joao Felix, and that has happened within the hour. Manchester City confident of landing Nico Gonzalez. They won't trigger the €60 million clause, but a package close to its being finalized. Gonzalez has agreed to personal terms. Matisse Tell on his way to Spurs on a straight loan. U-turn from rejecting a €60 million permanent move. Tell is now flying with his agent, Gadiri Kamara. Tell is traveling as they're finalizing the exact formula of it. Wolves and Leicester discussing two-way business, according to Jacobs, that could see Connor Cody and Craig Dawson both move. No means guaranteed. No talks yet. Advanced clubs in dialogue. Ange Postecoglou apparently spoke directly to Matisse Tell over the weekend, and he changed his mind about going to Spurs. We mentioned Caleb Wiley heading to Watford and Lemina. A lot of it has to do with Tell so far. West Ham have confirmed Evan Ferguson joined on loan from Brighton. Also remember that you have the move of Marcus Rashford that's also in line. John Textor has announced he's not going to sell Ryan Cherky from Lyon on deadline day. Rejected Dortmund an offer. We do not intend to negotiate with them or any other club. So also, Carney Chukwuemeka has completed the first part of his Dortmund medical, set to arrive there on loan. Ben Chilwell undergoing his Crystal Palace medical earlier this morning. So Christopher Nkunku set to stay at Chelsea with the Felix exit on the table. As reported, Chelsea's open to a Felix loan, has several suitors. Nkunku will not. Chelsea will not get the £60 million plus valuation met. Nkunku doesn't want a loan. Manchester United considered it, but they are not going to meet the price tag. Wolves have made a £10 million deal offer for Red Star Belgrade defender Nasser Giga. Accepted en route, ready to finalize the move, as Fabrizio Romano called it. Red Star Belgrade gets a 10% sell-on fee. Spurs have seen a significant bid rejected from Mark Gahey. Spurs' bid was in the region of £70 million, rejected by Crystal Palace. Ipswich are going to sign a U18 fullback from Chelsea, Somto Boniface, exploring a deal for Dortmund keeper Gregor Korbel, meaning Chelsea, despite links in Germany. Ipswich have agreed on a £2 million fee with West Brom for keeper Alex Palmer on his way for a medical. And once again, remember, Middlesbrough has confirmed Samuel Ling Jr. on loan from Aston Villa. That's a part of the movement involving what we're doing with Emmanuel Latela. West Ham confirms James Ward-Prowse's return from his loan spell at Nottingham Forest. No official recall, but parties had reached an agreement. Ward-Prowse only played like 5 matches at Forest since he went there. Cardiff confirming Will Alves has joined on loan till the end of the season. All right, so let's check with Fabrizio Romano, see what's going on in his timeline. And Nico Gonzalez is officially a here we go, €60 million with a different structure. Sunderland turned down a package from Brighton for Tommy Watson. The deal is off. Porto in contact with Barca for Pablo Torre after Nico Gonzalez to Man City's completed. Negotiations are ongoing. let's see. The Amugu deal with Chelsea and Saint Etienne, around 15 million euro, details being sorted. Manuel Neuer signs a new deal at Bayern Munich until June of 26, staying for one more year. And Dortmund have agreed on a new deal with a 16-year-old center back, Romeo Ritter, through June of 28. AC Milan agreed on a loan deal for Ricardo Sotil. Initial loan fee plus a 10 million euro buy option clause, not mandatory. Now it's all up to Fiorentina. Excess of 5 million on Joao Felix with a loan fee to AC Milan. Noah Okafor, final round of talks, Napoli and AC Milan to get the deal done. 2 million loan euro fee plus another 25 million buy option. Clause is not mandatory. Okafor has already said yes to Napoli. Let's see, trying to check and see if there are any others. Dario Isugo, one of the options Chelsea considering for midfield is Sporting, and we'll talk to Nino Torres about that on Thursday. Expects movement in the final hours because then that goes with Amugu and Saint Etienne. Anas Salah Adin joins Roma from FC Twente, 8 million euro plus 2 million in add-ons. Let's see, Matisse Tell, we mentioned that one. Spurs are going to cover the full salary until June as a part of the loan agreement on Matisse Tell. And the picture that's floating around is Gadiri Kamara, and Matisse Tell on a plane. So we know that that's obviously happening. Roma rejected a Fulham proposal for Zeki Celik. Ismail Benacer has already said yes to Marseille. Keen on the move. Decision up to AC Milan. 10 hours to go. And this was early this morning. Loan with a buy option, 10 million euro. And trying to see if there's any other big names that are out here before we go. I think we got it. So that's where we are. And Benfica, Samuel Dahl from Roma, next signing after Belotti. All right, so that's where we are. So noon on Peacock. And Ben Jacobs, by the way, on Twitter, he's got a big thing going on the 280-character app when they've got a bunch of guests and it's live and free form and all that kind of stuff. So what to keep an eye on. Emmanuel Latte Lath. Do we get latte and mate today? Once again, we have until 7 o'clock. I think 5 hours. Keep an eye on that. Remember, tomorrow is an afternoon drive show because of the dueling physicals and everything else that's going on during the day. Tomorrow might be a power hour, might be a little longer. We'll figure it out. But tomorrow, late afternoon with me, if Maddie or anybody wants to hop on early, they will, and we can talk about they'll talk about what happened later today and possibly tomorrow morning. So once again, with me, later afternoon drive tomorrow. The rest of the week should still be the rest of the week. Tyler will be with us on Wednesday. Nino and Nico in the Power Hour on Thursday, Friday, getting you ready for everything going down in Bradenton and all hands on deck. Ricky's saying that Hope Solo is jumping into TST this year in the 7v7. So keep an eye on that as well. And I think Burnley is in. They just posted a video to social media. Apparently it's very, very good because it's a parody of the last episode of Friends where Ross is playing the answering machine. So look at that. Apparently, it's very, very good. I'll look at it when we're off the air. Okay. Once again, tomorrow, late afternoon, power hour, probably a little more. SDH PM, getting you squared away with all the information and getting you ready for Tuesday night and beyond. Wednesday's normal, Thursday's normal, Friday's normal. But tomorrow is plenty of physicals and information, and we'll let you know what happens there as well. So keeping an eye on everything with Atlanta United, keeping an eye on everything going on all around the planet. Thanks for dropping by. Thanks to Craig Johns, by the way, for dropping by to give us the intel on Emmanuel Latte Lath, who he is as a player, and what to expect should a signing come to the fore. So we'll keep an eye on that today. Until 7 o'clock, we'll see what happens and see if we get a here we go on this side of the Atlantic about a player from the EFL Championship. So thanks for hanging out with us. I know we had to go long because we had a lot more stuff to talk about. Happy deadline day to those of you who celebrate. Mucha platial. Play it safe. See you tomorrow. Follow on socials. What I said, what everybody said. So we'll keep an eye on all of that. And since it's the end of the run today, we get to play this. We'll see you late tomorrow afternoon live, and follow us on all of our socials.